Ag Week Weather is sponsored by Bremer Bank. Connect with a banker today at bremer.com.
Are these frigid temps here to stay? Here's John with our Agri-weather outlook.
The Arctic air that dropped into the northern plains, southern Canada over the last week or so, the last few days, lingers. But we're going to watch here over the next couple of weeks as the air becomes stagnant. It will no longer be reinforced with additional waves of Arctic air, although it will remain cold. It's just going to lose a little bit of its punch, and we'll likely see the weather pattern, most of the northern plains becoming fairly dry. The lake effect regions of the Great Lakes, those areas will start to pile up some snow. And generally speaking, I think as we drift toward the end of January and into the start of February, what has become quite cold will become milder again. Perhaps not as mild as the northern plains and upper Midwest region was during December, but very likely not nearly so cold as this stretch here in the middle of January. Decidedly frigid, sub-zero, mostly day and night, at least near zero day, starting out the period here with cold weather penetrating into much of the southern states and the eastern states as well. Only really Florida, parts of Mexico and the southwest remain mild. But this week you'll see the truly frigid air, as in near zero, sub-zero highs, just kind of begin to retreat a little. It's not going to be a warming trend. There's going to be no replacement. But with the split flow and the jet stream, these two fairly weak and a real complex pattern out over the northern Pacific, I just don't look for any more big shots of cold air to drop down. So instead, it will likely be considerably colder than average over the southern states, but this cold wave is going to kind of lose its punch in the north. Still going to be cold, no doubt about that. One thing that's holding much of the northern plains region back, though, is the absence of snow. And with this jet stream coming out of the north and remaining fairly weak, I don't see very much changing with regard to that. The overall pattern looking still fairly stormy with a couple of jets along the east coast, but the west coast, except for the Pacific Northwest, which is almost always rainy and snowy this time of year, the west coast, including California, will remain relatively dry. Precipitation, here we go. This first week, January 14th through 20th, lots of snow in the mountains, rain in the lower elevations out west. Trickles of that will move across the midsection of the country. Probably not as major storms here, but increasing as major type storms into the eastern states, and the lake effect belts of the Great Lakes will likely see considerable snow. The main far south will actually go, I think, a little bit drier, although some of this rain could be quite stormy. Florida looks like it'll be getting some rainy weather over the next couple of weeks. The eastern seaboard will be. The Great Plains relatively dry. And in the west, it's going to be mostly the Pacific Northwest, not the Southwest, that gets the moisture.